Hello everyone and welcome back to another Figurehead Reviews video, and today we are taking a look at the Marvel Legends Marvel 80 Years 2-pack featuring Colossus and Juggernaut. And man, I am really excited to get this set. But we have here Colossus and Juggernaut in the front window with some of the accessories displayed. We get some different logos here, the X-Men logo and so on. At the top we do get that subtle Marvel logo there. On the side, we do get some very cool comic book artwork here. We have Colossus, and then on the other side, we have Juggernaut. Very cool. We do have at the bottom here the UPC code, so if you do want to check with any of your local retailers to see if they have this in stock, there you go. And then on the back, we do have a very cool shot of another comic book shot here of Colossus and Juggernaut, and then we have a cover of a comic featuring the two fighting. Very, very excited. We do have the read up here for Colossus, a mutant with the ability to transform his body into metal. Peter Rasputin left his farm community to join the X-Men and fight for good. And then we have Juggernaut's read up. Kane Marco possesses superhuman strength and extreme durability that allows him to rampage through any situation as an unstoppable juggernaut of force. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and get this open and take a look at these two figures. And here is Juggernaut and Colossus outside of their packaging, and I was so excited when I first saw this 2-pack, and now that I have it, I have to say I'm not as excited as I was when I saw it first come out. Not that there's anything wrong with the figures. I think the Juggernaut figure is fine. In fact, I think the Build-A-Figure that we had was fine. I am thankful for the additional accessories that we got for this version of Juggernaut. I think it makes the figure really stand out from that Build-A-Figure, and especially if you don't have the Build-A-Figure, I can certainly see why this 2-pack would be more desirable for you. But as somebody who already has the Build-A-Figure, I don't know if there was enough variation to the core figure itself to really warrant a re-release. Some of the subtle paint deco differences and some of the design differences. Don't get me wrong, I think this is a great comic book adaptation Juggernaut, and I actually think I do prefer this one over the other one. Where my issue is with this Colossus figure. I was really excited to get Colossus, especially this design, this costume, and I don't have a problem with the costume, the paint, or the sculpt work. The issues that I have with Colossus are centered really just around the build quality. I'll go over it, but I have had some weak joints and things like that I wasn't really excited for, and it sort of sapped all my enthusiasm that I had for this set. That's not to say that I don't still like this set. I think it's very cool, and I'll kind of go over some of the things that really, like I said, make it stand out. But man, these guys, this box was so heavy, and these are some big figures, so I think it is really cool. In fact, when standing straight up, Juggernaut is coming in at about 8.5 inches tall, which makes him 21.6 centimeters, and Colossus is coming in at 7.5 inches tall, which makes him about 19 centimeters. So let's go ahead and take a look first at the accessories that we get for these two figures, and then we'll jump into the closer looks. Included in this 2-pack, we do get an extra set of hands for both Juggernaut and Colossus, and then we get that unmasked head sculpt and the battle-damaged helmet for Juggernaut. So taking a look first at the open hands, I actually really like these. I think they came out looking great. I love that we get two different open hands, so we get a closer to a gripping hand, and then we get the open gesture, but I really love the design. I love that we get just the design here on the detail rather, on this band going around the hands. I love that. You can see some, I guess, call it battle damage, whatever you want to call it. But the hands themselves do look great. You got all these veins popping out. The fingernails and everything came out looking really good. And they do just fit in really easily. So on the figure itself, he does come with these fisted hands. And on mine, one of the complaints that I do have is this fisted hand is very loose on mine. I couldn't bend the elbow without that popping out, but just like any other regular Marvel Legend, you'll just port those in and that looks just fine on there. So very, very cool. And then of course for Colossus we get a extra set of fisted hands as well, and I think these came out looking really, really cool. I like it. And with Colossus we get standard the open gesture hands that come in the box, so you can swap these out for the fists and it'll look just fine. And then we're going to look at the head sculpt here in a second when we do the closer look on the figure. So looking at the battle damaged helmet is really cool. So unlike the standard helmet, which is very smooth, we can see we get some details here of just some scratches, scuffs, some pitting, things like that that are going on with the helmet. And then we even get some dry brushing on the inside here where it's just peeled open, and we get that silver dry brushing, which looks very, very nice, and I really like that. And then on the inside, you'll see these lips here. That is meant to go onto the unmasked head sculpt, so you can still have the unmasked head sculpt on there and have this held on in some fashion. But again, we'll look at that here in a moment. But yeah, I think that looks really cool. I love it. We got the rivets and stuff going around. Very, very neat. And getting a good look here at the unmasked Juggernaut, or the Cain Marko head sculpt, and I really like this. I think it was really well done. I love the expression and the detail we get, the addition of the bruises around the eye, the fat lip. I think it all came out looking very, very good. I really like that a lot. And man, look at the shading if we get in real close there on the eye. And actually, look at that. If we can get in right on the eye, if I can get my camera to focus in on that, like even the whites of his eye came out with a little bit of red in them. So man, that is really cool how they did that. I think that is just awesome looking. So really well executed in my opinion. I think it just, yeah, it's a good expression, and I like that they got the bruised eye to match up with the torn side of the helmet. So that looks really cool. I think with that bashed up helmet on, yeah, it does add a very neat effect to it, so I like that a lot. Switching over to the main head here, there we are. So we get a good expression on here as well. I think it came out looking good. It's actually the same expression that we had with the Build-A-Figure piece, so nothing new there, but the helmet is a little bit slimmer, if I'm not mistaken. On the sides, it comes in a little bit tighter, and then we do have white eyes on there as opposed to normal eyes, which I believe the Build-A-Figure had, and I also believe the Build-A-Figure had more yellow teeth. With this, he has a pretty shiny smile, but he does have a chipped tooth there, which, did he have the chipped tooth on this one? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, hard to say, but it looks like he's got a chipped tooth, so I think that is very cool looking. Looking at the rest of the figure going down, it is the same body sculpt as the Build-A-Figure. Big difference that's been pointed out by a couple reviewers. This one does not have a belt, but we do get just that classic straight line or red lines with the straight black lines going throughout. So I like that. Looks good. Backside goes through. Yeah, the lines carry on, so that looks good. The pitting and battle damager, if you want to call it that, I mentioned on the bands, that's what the helmet of the Build-A-Figure looks like. So you can see with this one, they went with the full smooth look. And actually, one thing I did notice that was kind of cool, on this head sculpt, he actually has some furrowed eyebrows sculpted on the helmet. I thought that was really cool, really unique, and it even adds something that you probably wouldn't even have otherwise noticed, but it almost gives the helmet a angry expression. So I think that was really cool. But going down the rest of the figure, not a whole lot of paint necessary, just a lot of solid molded plastic, and we get some big old boots there, so very, very cool. Looking at the articulation, so you have a head that can, of course, move all the way around, and he actually gets a little bit of wobble on it as well. He can look down a little ways, and then can look up a little ways as well. You have arms that can come up about almost a full 90 degrees, full rotation. You do have a bicep swivel, really stiff single jointed elbow, and every time I bend this elbow, the hand comes out. But he does have a single jointed elbow, and then rotation and hinge on all of the hands. And I will point out, since he is a Build-A-Figure, it's not hard to take some of these pieces off. In fact, he has a ab crunch forward and backwards, side to side, and then again, being a Build-A-Figure, yep, he can come apart as well, which I actually thought about, like maybe taking one of my Juggernauts and putting him out down at the waist, recreating that scene from X-Men 3 where he's stuck in the ground there by Kitty. I thought that was kind of cool. He has legs that can come apart about that far, kick forward about that far, back not much at all, upper thigh cut, single jointed knee. There is no boot cut there, but he does have a hinge and ankle pivot. In looking now at Colossus, we see a very classic looking head sculpt, which this is the same head sculpt that we saw with the other Colossus figure, just the different silver that we get, the metallic look. And I still like this head sculpt. I think it looks very good. The eyes look like maybe they could have come down a little bit from where they're painted on. looks like they might have been painted on a little too high, but otherwise the hair came out pretty good. Little bit off, I think. Was it this side? Or yeah, this side. Got a little bit of black on his ear. Not the worst, but yeah, could have been a little bit cleaner. But yeah, I really like that head sculpt. I think it came out great. Looking down at the rest of the figure, we get this classic costume design for Colossus that I know I've been wanting, and again, I think a lot of us have been wanting, and it looks great. They actually have this piece here. You can see, like, right there, you can see the line of separation. It's actually a glued-on piece from the looks of things, so that way we were able to get the little flare there, but yeah, it still looks really good. And I love you can see some of the finer details of like the stretched fabric over the muscles and stuff like that. Same thing on the back. You can see just some of the definition and detailing. So yeah, looks really good. I love the silver that they used as well. Very vibrant, very reflective, very, very cool. Paint on his belt, yeah, not too bad. Came out looking good. And then going down the rest of them, his shorts and things like that look good. And then we do get the big knee-high boots that he has. And I love that the flare here is actually built in on the knee so that it doesn't look weird or anything like that when you bend the legs. So yeah, I like it. Peg holes down at the bottom. Very, very cool. Looking at the articulation, so you have a head that can, of course, go side to side. He can actually look down quite far. Looks a little weird there, but he can bury his chin pretty far down. He can look up quite a ways. He has arms that can go up, yeah, about a full 90 degrees. Full rotation, however, you will have to flare it out a little bit just so it doesn't hit that shoulder pad. He has a bicep joint. Single jointed elbow, and much like my Juggernaut figure, this elbow is a little stiff for me. And then you do have a rotation and hinge on all the hands. He has an ab crunch that can go down quite a ways, and it can go back actually very far. He has a waist rotation, but you can see it kind of makes that belt fly up if you do it. So you can pull it down though, and you're good. You have legs that can come apart pretty far. He can kick forward, not too bad. Backwards, not much at all. He does have a thigh cut. This thigh was actually frozen. I had to heat it up and get it loose, but yeah. He does have a double jointed knee, and you can see that does flare out with that. And then he does have a hinge at the ankle, and he does have ankle pivot, and a little bit of what I was going to talk about. So this knee, very, very loose joint down here. That is a bummer. And then to show you, I was going to mention this bobble effect. He is a very floppy figure. So let me bring the camera down a little bit here, and if I can get him to stand back up. And there we go. And then looking at his waist, like, I don't know, he's just very floppy. Like, the legs will hold still, but yeah, I don't know, that hip joint, like, look at that. I just can't think of any other figures I've seen where it's so springy like that. He's a little difficult for me to stand up. These legs are there's not a lot of resistance in them. And then with this loose joint, that's where my real downside is with this guy. These leg joints just seem terrible. Let me know if you're having the same thing, because I'm really curious if it's just me or if it's something to do with this actual figure. And for a quick comparison, here we have the 2-pack Juggernaut all the way on the left with the Build-A-Figure in the middle, and then the Marvel Select version all the way on the right. And we can see the colors of the Build-A-Figure and the Select more closely match each other, and it looks like I had it backwards as well. The Build-A-Figure Juggernaut is the one with the slimmer helmet, not the 2-pack version, but you can see the color variations between these three, and certainly see the color variation between this 2-pack version and the Build-A-Figure version. And I gotta say, now that I have them standing next to each other, I do like this new 2-pack version a bit more. It does feel more like a comic book version of the figure. And for our Colossus comparison, here we have the 2-pack Colossus on the left. We get, I believe it was the Warlock wave, but it was the previous version Marvel Legends in the middle. And then we have our Marvel Select Colossus there on the far right. So you can see the color difference I was talking about in the silver compared from the 2-pack compared to the previous version. And I gotta say, I do like the shinier silver. The Marvel Select version was a little bit darker than the Marvel Legends and had a little bit more shading. And the Select version served as my stand-in for Colossus with my Marvel Legends display, but now that I have this other one, I kind of like the scale a little bit better. I think the select version's just slightly too tall when going up against some of the Marvel Legends villain figures. I think he scaled decently enough when I had him on display with the Marvel Legends heroes, but yeah, I think this 2-pack Colossus is going to find its home right next to my blue and gold team. And that about does it for this review, everyone. So overall, this 2-pack is probably going to have a varying audience in terms of whether or not it is worth the money. Some people are probably going to pass up on it because they might say, well, I already have a Juggernaut figure, and even technically we have a Colossus figure, and even if you have that select version, like I said, that select version is a good stand-in. But for anybody that doesn't have the Build-A-Figure, or anybody that really wants to have a more in-scale Colossus, I think this 2-pack is worth getting because I think these two scale nicely together. They look good together. You can get some better posability out of these figures than you can with the select versions. So overall, I think it's worth it. Even if you already have some of the previous versions of these figures, I think it's worth picking up. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Is this 2-pack worth it to you? Did you already get it? And yeah, let me know your thoughts on it. Make sure to hit that like button if you like this review. Subscribe for more content just like this. And aside from that, thanks for watching my video and have a great day.